You know, I normally make the thumbnails after the video. Usually, like 90% of the time, I make the thumbnails after, right? I just, I feel like I need to say that, you know, this is the death issue of Negan. Like, this is Negan's death issue. Like, he's dead. He's done. Goodbye, Negan. He's dead. He's gone. But then you're going to get a ton of people who are like, what the F, man? No spoilers. You know what I'm saying? So, but the reason I said I got it, like something's urging me to title it that way, is because this is something that we've been dealing with for a couple years now, this slow progression, because he was, you know, in prison and his story kind of was off to the side for a while. And then they were slowly hinting, and a lot of fans thought he might have been tricking everyone he comes across, and he's up to something, he's scheming. And this is officially the nail in the coffin, like that's it. Negan is dead. However, he's still alive, and he still has story, but the Negan we know and love, like the villain Negan, he's dead. You know? I might just title it that anyway, and just deal with some of the backlash. Here's a news story. I got to jump into this. The first issue was interesting, but I wanted to show this off because it has a mock-up of the Negan cover from issue 111 of the Walking Dead comic, so that was pretty cool. The magazine, I was going to give this a shout-out. However, when I opened it up, just to skim through it, it said that this is the very last issue they're going to do. So that's it. One of the first things, I don't know if we have had much Walking Dead stuff. It's been like so hot for so long. I think this is probably one of the first things that's been canceled or finished. Let me know, because I think the novel's still going. I mean, the comic's still going. The show's still going. The companion series is still going. They announced they're ending Telltale, but we don't really know if that's if they're gonna jump it over into a new series where the characters are still alive. Like, we don't know if they're still using the characters, but they said that they're gonna end it with season 4. Again, I still feel like they're gonna jumpstart it somewhere else, or use the characters somewhere else, because it just doesn't feel right. Something's off. But yeah, so I guess officially one of the first things, I guess, to be canceled. But again, this is an uphill battle. I thought this was a surprise that they would make a magazine, but I think a magazine's like an uphill battle, because one of the biggest complaints when I put anyone onto the magazine, it's real cool at first, or at least initially when they were very first released, but then after a while, we get everything online. Your hardcore active fan base is getting all this information online. The people you want to actually spend money on this, they get it already online, and you know, there's almost no way to get around that. You can't save the figure reviews, the collectible reviews, not the reviews, the reveals. You can't save all that stuff, just put it in the magazine. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is done. So they're coming out with a collection on the back. You could look that up if you are interested in, maybe you didn't read it, but you're interested in all the collection stuff. Anyhow, so 174, love this issue. I love this issue so much. There's only one thing I did. One flaw. I got one flaw. One flaw and one nitpick. Well, the flaw, you can call it a nitpick, but go yourself. I don't think it's a nitpick. Maggie kissing Dante. Nah, I didn't like it. Hated it. Hated it. Like, despised it. Here's the thing. I'm fine with Maggie getting with Dante. That's fine. I said that a while ago, as long as the progression was slow and it felt right. And this did feel right for something subtle. You know, when she had this moment with Negan and she was leaving, I knew there was something subtle going to happen. Like, she said something extra nice to him, or, you know, she ended up pushing him away, or maybe there was even a hand gesture, like she put her hand on his hand. Like, something lingered. In my gut, I knew it was coming, but something subtle, and then I turned the page, and it was like, shabam! I was like, that's not subtle at all. So I'm fine with them hooking up. That's not what my flaw is. It not being subtle is what my flaw is. But this is her healing and moving on, in a way, so anyone who, even though I love this issue, anyone who was really interested in that Negan and Maggie confrontation, it's done now. You can't restart that confrontation. So that's over. That's over. They're going to move on to something else. However, this issue in its entirety, absolutely loved it. I really like that intro picture of Negan right there. Charlie Adler's art did amazing. So we open the issue with Negan pulling a flower from, it looks like it just grew in the wild, and he brings it over, he puts it in a flower pot, brings it over to Lucille's grave, and this isn't the grave site for the bat. It is the bat, but it's like more of symbolic gesture towards his wife, and he has some breakdown moments, and he shoots a dog. I did like that. He's like, I still didn't like having to shoot that dog. And he finds another bat. This is a big part. And this is something I laughed at because I said, merchandise, characters is branding, merchandise, you gotta have another Lucille eventually. And he does get the bat, and he's like, he goes back to the grave, and he says, it's just a bat. I can get another one. It's not like I'm replacing my wife. So he runs back, he gets it, then he finds barbed wire, and that's when Maggie shows up with a gun to his head. That was a cool reveal. And again, love that full page there. And their dialogue in this moment, I liked it a lot. Again, with different different tastes and stuff. There was a couple moments here and there where, like my tastes for what Maggie would have said or how Negan countered it, it is a little different. There was some moments where I expected it a little bit more, and again, when Negan snaps and he's like, just kill me. We've seen that in a number of different movies in Hollywood, movies and TV shows. We've seen somebody who wants death and another person just leaves them alive. We've seen it too much where that part kind of touched me, where I said, I do like it, but I think pretty much anything else I would have liked a lot more. Anything where it was the dialogue, and you still did that. You still portrayed, a Negan who was ready to just be done with it and get what he deserves. However, again, that was only a little weaker moment, and I don't put that down as a flaw or as a nitpick, because it was a moment where I might have liked something a little bit better as far as my tastes, but for what we got, I still really enjoyed it. And the whole conversation, I did like this. There was so much that I really did. Oh, this shit, I love this. I really like this. Maggie says, she asks, can you picture your wife's face? And he's like, clear as day. Can you hear her words? This right here. She says, every time I try to picture Glenn's face, all I see is him screaming my name with his skull bashed in and his eye hanging out. When I hear his voice, it's screaming my name, garbled in agony. That's my memory of him. And with that, I see you smiling. And I'm like, mic drop. That bitch just killed it. Now that right there was like, shit. Oh, you know how I said I always wanted Maggie to end up being the one to kill Negan and use Lucille to do it? I said that would be poetic and ironic as well. And she does look over at the bat, and Negan's like, that would be poetic. Painful for me, but I respect it. I understand it. Yeah, here's a moment where, tweaking some things, I feel like I would have been like, oh my god, the best issue ever. However, I still really liked it. So I guess that part you could put into some of the nitpicking. There is some little disappointments, and we find this throughout stories, whether it's in the comic book or on a TV show or in a movie. There's a story that you're expecting. Like, you have your expectations. And I did want a big confrontation. I didn't want it to end this quickly between Maggie and Negan. I did want something to happen, you know what I mean? And then get to this point. But they didn't do that. So there's a part of me that's like, nah, I kind of wanted that. Like when the Whisperers attacked, there's a very big part of me that wanted a few of the Whisperers in the herd, and I still won't shut up about it. I don't know how that didn't happen. That would have been a return to terror. I mean, this is a horror story. It's a survival horror story. That's a horrific thought, that you have the zombies, okay, they get through the wall, but you're safely in your house. I mean, we're good. You have all these people living, they're good. And then you got the Whisperers who are camouflaged in the herd, going door to door, opening doors, opening windows, or leading zombies in and out of buildings just to devour people. And then you got to get the good guys to get a Whisperer, dress like a Whisperer, or use the guts trick and go in the herd. Now they gotta find a way to fight and find the Whisperers, kill them without drawing attention to themselves from the zombies and the Whisperers too. So it's kind of like one of those things where that's what my expectation was, and I still ended up. Well, that might be a little different story, because I think it was a little bit underwhelming with the Whisperers, and how they ended was totally underwhelming for me, only because the Whisperer storyline, the new beginning, and the introduction to those characters was and still is my all-time favorite moment, or all-time favorite story arc in the comic. It's a big story arc. It's bigger than the Governor, for example, but still, it's, even though it ended in a way I really didn't want it to go down that path, but it still is one of my all-time favorite reveals, especially for a new beginning, new bad guy, new villain. That's what I meant to say, new villain. So yeah, there's not much more I could say here. This is, you know what, Negan has a great line here. I do want to mention this, where he says, to have a quiet enough moment to allow the memory of your actions to horrify you. I like some of this stuff because we see Negan and his tough talk. We see him, even if you go back and reread the new beginning, where Negan's like, Psh, Rick, you're just getting this place ready for me. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to wreak havoc. I'm going to take over. I'm going to do this and this and this and this. Like, and he even tells Rick, my favorite time of day is when you empty my shit bucket. You know what I'm saying? This is a Negan who is, he is being cocky, and he's, you know, boasting, and he's taunting, and he's playing around. But I believe this is an authentic look at his feelings and what he has learned. And this isn't a trick. I don't believe by any means this is a trick at all, that he was trying to trick. I didn't read in the letter hacks. I don't think he was trying to trick Maggie whatsoever about living. Even at the end, he gets his bat, and he does throw it in a fire, which kind of flashes back to, or recalls back to, here's Negan. And he was sitting in front of a bonfire when he put the barbed wire around it. So they show this scene where it's just a silhouette of Negan in front of a fire, and it kind of harkens back to that storyline. And then we see him just throw the bat in the fire, which is neat, yet at the same time I still feel like we're going to get a barbed wire baseball bat later on. I might be in denial there, though, but I don't see how they would just throw that away. You can sell more bats. Get a black bat with barbed wire, boom, you got a whole, you got a whole new, you know, all new merchandising. Let's do that. Anyway, I'm liking this issue. I'm really liking this issue. And I think, you know, it took 174 issues to finally see somebody taking a shit in the apocalypse. That wasn't high up on my must-see, you know, list in the comic, but it was a little bit unrealistic not having people deal with the obvious shit we would be dealing with if our luxuries of daily living in, you know, today's world fell apart. I was joking. I can't remember if anyone's ever taken a shit or went off to piss. I'm sure they have. I'm just being a dick and joking around. So don't, you know, take that literal. Okay, so let's end this video where we began this video about the death of Negan. And yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. This issue right here, glorious cover. It's probably one of those rare cases, maybe the first time, I don't know, I'm going to have to really think back, where we have an issue that is solely focused around this character, a cover, beautiful cover, nice symbolism there, and it is it's a symbolic, or it represents the death of Negan, and this is the Negan death issue. He's gone, and I know a lot of people are just going to blow that off like, you know, he's still alive. Ronnie, come on. You're being over dramatic. He's not dead. But he is. The Negan we know and love came in issue 100, the big bad with a bat hanging over his shoulder, you know, cocky and wrecking havoc, and he is the villain of the storyline. That Negan is gone. You're not going to get that back without looking like you don't know what the hell you're doing as far as story-wise. You know what I'm saying? You can have him getting mad at certain characters and creating conflict. You can definitely do that. But you can't take this Negan character and go back the way, go back to what he was. You know what I'm saying? Without seriously looking like you just had the fans chasing their tail for how many issues now. Or repetition, not being creative enough to come up with something deep or deeper for this character. So this, in my opinion, as overdramatic as it may seem, I consider this to be a symbolic death of Negan. The villain Negan, that's gone. This is it right here. He's dead and gone. No more. And I think whenever we see him next, I don't know. This is where it gets tricky too. We are going into the New World storyline that's coming up. I believe that's coming up. Yeah, 175. It's a New World Order storyline. I believe we won't be seeing Negan probably for a few issues. Maggie went and searched for him, and that's it. Negan does say he can't live alone. We've seen that, and that's why he did stick with his saviors and his community. He did start pulling people together. He's not going to last out there on his own, so I'm kind of curious. And he is a character that's not just going to go away yet. He's got a big fan base. So Kirkman's going to bring him back into the story. So I'm kind of curious how he goes about doing that, and what community will Negan end up at. Dwight is off doing some other shit, so there might be something interesting there as far as Dwight not going back to the sanctuary and Negan going back to the sanctuary. But then again, those people, they're not going to want him there. You know what I'm saying? So, or maybe they will. Maybe if we see the sanctuary and it's just falling apart and some other shit is going on, Negan can possibly bring them back into the fold. We don't know. I mean, Kirkman can throw us a curveball and have Negan, get picked up by some of the Kingdom people, end up going there. They show him mercy, and then that one guy wants to, was it Zachary? Wants to overthrow William, and then Negan ends up being there in the nick of time to help him out. And then this is like, oh, William's like, oh, you're my number 2, and then we get a whole new weird different storyline for Negan. I'm not saying I want that at this point in time. I honestly don't know what I want from Negan. I would like to see Negan come back to the communities, or be on his own for a little bit and have his own separate storyline. If he does come back to the communities, I want him to be shipped out. I want him to go up to Rick and just be like, listen, man, I don't want to do it out there on my own. I'll show and prove. You give me a job, I'll do it. Just name it, let me prove myself. And something happens with our group in Ohio, and they need to send a secondary group, maybe be a little more cautious this time. So he ends up sending Negan along with maybe 1 or 2 people just to keep the group a lot smaller and faster. Yeah, that's it. Negan and another person, and have Negan go on a recon mission. I do want to see him do stuff like that. I think that would be pretty interesting. I'm going to have to do some more thinking on what I want good guy Negan to do since villain Negan, bad guy Negan is dead. I still want him doing, Negan shit. You know what I mean? He's not going to change totally. If they come across some guy that seems like a bad guy, Negan's just going to kill him. If Rick and Negan were walking along and this guy comes out and this guy doesn't seem like he's going to put his gun down or this, and this, Negan's going to rip him in half. I mean, he's still Negan. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still looking forward to that aspect of him. But anyway, I'm going to shut up. You leave your thoughts and opinions. What did you think about this issue? Put those down in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn.